Hello, everybody. Jeez, mucus on my throat. How are we all? Hope we're well. Welcome back. Hope everyone's had a good Easter and a nice long weekend if you're in the UK, or if the country you're in also has long weekends for Easter. Because it's been particularly nice having a good long 4-day weekend. But we're back and we are ready to do some more work on this cozy game. I'm like quite eager to be working on this project versus other stuff on stream, because one, it's like a nice challenge trying to make a game in like a really short time period, especially a commercial one for that matter. So that's exciting, but also it's just a really nice like project to be working on. I'm, you know, anyone who's been following the channel for a while knows that I have a soft spot for cozy games and just chill vibes. I'm a big fan of like Dorf Romantic and Garden Galaxy, which have been the two games that are in the thumbnails for these live streams. And yeah, it's nice making a kind of low, you know, low, what's the word I'm looking for? Low consequence, just chill zen experience, which is what we're shooting for today and what we're going to be continuing working on. So let's refresh where we were last time. We have, oh well, I've changed some things since last time. So last time, at the end of the stream, we had set up with a grid system that was making us tiles on which you could place objects. I have done some planning and some thinking more about what I want the game to feel like, what I want people to be able to do when they're playing, and the outcome of that is that actually a grid system isn't something that I want to use. I instead want to have it just be free open space and just put in some sort of system that tracks when you drop an object, are you going to drop it on top of something else, and if so, we can then you know, move the object out of the way in the nearest direction so that it lands next to it rather than on top of it, or potentially on top of it, and we just kind of let that go and people can play freely. But yeah, that's kind of that. Off the back of that, let me actually show a little bit some of the planning that I've been doing, because anyone who follows me on Twitter will know that, let's actually get the right app open, will know that I have recently started using Obsidian, which is quite nice, and I have become aware of the canvas page or file type, which is really nice for just dumping everything relating to the project into like a single space. So on this file, or on this page, I've got like a mood board which I'm slowly going to grow for images of games that I'm you know, inspired by or taking inspiration from. You can see we've got Garden Galaxy, Dorf Romantic again pulled up in here, some models of some flowers which I like the look of while I was browsing around the other day, and I will continue to add more, I'm sure. We've got then a GGD, which at the moment is literally just a like an outline of this project. We've got the premise, which I've settled on wanting to make a cozy little flower garden where you can sell flowers to earn money. The genre, idle, clicker, incremental, that kind of vibe. And then the pillars, which for anyone who doesn't know what game design pillars are, it's effectively like a set of constraints, if you will, or the core like the core spirit of the game. Anything that I look to add or that I consider putting in the game should fit one of these three pillars, if not all of them. And if it doesn't fit those, I can come back and refer to this, look at it and say, this idea doesn't fit with any of these, and then I know that it's not going to go in the game, and I can just either shelve it for a future project or bin it off completely. So the pillars that I settled on for this game, which I don't have a name for yet, but I'm thinking of one, are creative freedom, and then the definition that I've got here as well. The game should enable the player to create and experiment with their cozy environments in the way that they want to. That's very important to me. I want it to be, you know, somewhat of a sandbox where a player can create their own peaceful space. So that's that one. Next is inconsequential, which is, I think, probably a core pillar of most cozy games. Any decision that the player makes should have absolutely no impact whatsoever on the long-term progression and experience that they have. Like I say, this should be a sandbox, just a nice, cozy thing. There's no such thing as mistakes. In the spirit of Bob Ross, we only have happy accidents here. So everything in the game should not make you feel bad for making a mistake. It's just, like I say, a happy accident. Things might go wrong, but there's a peaceful outcome and it doesn't make you feel bad. And finally, inner peace. Everything in the process should feel therapeutic and peaceful, and the game should support the player in finding their peace in the way that they prefer to do so. So all kind of just tailoring back to this sandbox nature, peaceful vibes, giving the player the creative freedom and autonomy to build the environment that they want for their cozy garden. So there we are. And then I've also got the general loop for the game, which is earn money by saving flowers, grow flowers by planting seeds, buy seeds by spending money. And so you can see you've got this loop of needing money to get your seeds, so you can get flowers, so you can get money, which is you know, nice and cool. Gives us something tight. So the next thing that we've then got is this Moscow requirements, which I actually, you know, it's something that I did in college many years ago, but I've only just started using it internally recently, since having a conversation with Alex for one of the external projects that we're looking at doing. And it's basically a system by which you categorize requirements for a project based on musts in the green, shoulds in the blue, coulds in the orange, and won'ts in the red. So it gives you a really clear way of kind of defining exactly what things you're going to end up having. And in layman's terms, the green column effectively is your MVP. So everything in that green column is stuff that must be in the game for it to be done, basically. And having that list at a very basic level means that we can work to that and build ourselves a vertical slice minimum viable product that we can then use to, you know, pitch to people, start marketing, advertising, set up a Steam page, blah blah blah, all the rest of it. So this green column is effectively what we're looking to get done this week, and come the end of this week, once we've gotten through that, the first build of this game will be available for you guys to play via the Patreon, which there's a link in the description for that if you want to sign up to be able to get access when that happens. After that fact, we then have the stretch goals, as it were, or the more kind of polishy things. So stuff like better automation of things, game polish, some like extra, more core but still not necessary features. So just fleshing out the core mechanics of the game. They'll underpin our should column. The could column is likely stuff that I wouldn't look to put in unless we got like a fair bit more following or interest in the project, which hopefully, you know, we can look to get. But that'll be stuff like a lot of the social mechanics. I would really love to be able to have it so that you can have a friends list in your game and send flowers that you've grown over to your friends, or packs of seeds that you've cultivated. I've got cross-pollination as a mechanic I'd like to implement, so that you can actually build flowers with different aesthetic traits and different values based on other plants that you've grown. I think that would be really cool. And then having those online marketplaces and being able to kind of share socially and invite people to come see your garden, similar to an Animal Crossing island, I guess. I think that would be really fun. So that's something that I'm interested in putting in. And then the won't column, this is like everything that absolutely will not be in the game under any circumstances. And likely this will grow as I come up with more ideas that don't match with the the core pillars that I was talking about earlier. So at the moment, this is just simple stuff like scoring and leaderboards. No need for that. It's not that gives a sense of consequence. We don't want consequence. Like I say, this should be peaceful, non-consequential. The player should be able to move at their own pace and not have to worry about any outcomes. Something like scoring and leaderboards works exactly against that, so it's not something that I'm interested in. Similarly, strong narrative. I'm not interested in building a narrative game. There doesn't need to be a story here. I have toyed with the idea of adding in like a loose narrative just for sake of like adding something cozy, maybe like a backstory in the sense of you know, similar to Stardew Valley, where you get a letter at the start of the game for inheriting this flower shop or something, but that's, you know, very unlikely. And then, you know, any form of combat, danger or risk system, not going to be in there. Like I say, it works exactly against the pillars that we've got for this game, so it doesn't make sense to even consider it as something that we'd be looking at in the context of this project. Cool. And then the final thing that I've got in here is some time tracking, because something very very key that I want to attempt to do with this project as compared to Tirelands is figure out how much I would need to sell in order to make a profit. I've got some vague ideas, you know, for how long Tirelands took and therefore how much it cost, but I really want to be a little more accurate with my tracking and investment on this project. So I'm setting up myself like a little spreadsheet here based on my hourly rate, which for this project I'm setting at £40 an hour, because that kind of sits in line with the experience that I've got as a developer generally. Estimating about 10 hours a week working on this project between updating Tirelands, external projects, and the major game project that we're working on. So that gives like a rough monthly cost, or an estimated monthly cost. Well, sorry, not estimated monthly cost, an estimated total cost if I'm going to spend 2 months working on this first version of the game of £3,200 to develop the game. You know, you'd have to add 100 to that for, or it's like 80-ish for the Steam fee, making the page. So we'll call it, you know, factoring in some assets, probably a bit of overtime, maybe £3,500 is what I'm estimating as the cost for this project. So if I was to then sell it for a fiver, which is the plan, something in the realm of like £5 to £10 based on the amount of content that's going to go into it and other games within this kind of genre. What does that give us? Calculator. I need to do some quick maths. So 3,500 divided by 5, 700 units to, well, for the gross to map. So I mean, really what we want to be doing is taking that baseline, adding 30%, or well, factoring it as if that were 70%, to count in for things like, you know, tax, oh well, not tax, because tax comes off of profit, so we ignore that. But anyway, I'm digressing. The idea is that I can use this to keep a track of the progress I'm making, how I'm predicting things are going to run, and then give me an idea of, you know, maybe how many wish lists I need to get, how many units I'd be looking to sell in the first week, discount schedules, and what will define this as being a successful project, basically. So, looping back around to actually working on the project, because we're now like 20 minutes into the stream and I've done nothing so far. I removed the grid because, like I said, I didn't think the grid really fit. Instead, I'm gonna have just at the moment a plane for everything to sit on, but eventually I'll probably change this to be some sort of nice looking island or platform with changeable backgrounds, because I think that's a nice feature. And I've re-implemented the drag and drop so that it doesn't use any grid system. It's just a case of you have the thing, you can grab it, drag it around, and then let go to drop it. and it will just do what it's doing. All nice and good. So what I would like to do today off the back of that, like I say, is kind of build out the core loop for how this works, which in part is going to be using the bucket, which is this basic water source here. From that, being able to click it to drop a ball of water, and then being able to pick up balls of water and drop them onto pots with seeds in them to grow flowers, and then being able to click flowers to harvest said flowers, which will in turn sell the flowers, or maybe we make it so that there's like a storefront or something that you have to drop the flowers into to sell them. That probably makes more sense, because something else that I was thinking about future wise was having it so that you can wrap bouquets and sell those, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So let us do some water source stuff. I'm going to create a new C# script called water source. I'm going to pop that open in Visual Studio. Let's get this zoomed in as well. And this is going to have a serialized field, private, for the moment game object, but eventually we're going to change this to like water drop or something. That's going to be our water drop prefab. And then we probably just want a public void generate droplets. For now, just with an int count. Reason being is I want this to be separate from any specific implementation of the water source. So I mean, we could probably do this as an interface, but I don't really want to do it as an interface, because I kind of want it to be maybe like with the bucket. I want to make it so that when you click the bucket, it does a little shake and spits out a water droplet, but maybe every now and then we make it so that when you click it, it spits out 3 water droplets, just to speed things up a little for the player in the early game. So rather than having an interface, I want to just have oh no, maybe I do want it as an interface. Yeah, bun it, I am going to have it as an interface. Interface iWater source. And this is going to have a public water drop prefab. Which will just be a get, I think. We don't need to set it. And then a void generate water droplets, which I guess can take an integer for count. And now I've decided to do this as an interface because whoops, I would like to have it such that the cloud, or well, yeah, one of the objects I want to add is cloud, and I want that to be able to drop water droplets and then just fall straight downwards. Whereas with the bucket, I want it to be that when it clicks, it spits water out the top of it. Similarly with the something like the irrigator, I want that to be able to spit water droplets out in a specific archway in like 4 directions, for example, or the you know, a sprinkler. That's what I mean. I had to do the hand gesture to get my memory tripping. Guys, my brain isn't working. Anyway, so I have it as an interface, and that way I can actually go and create a script for my bucket. So let's make C# script bucket, and we can go on here. Ooh, and perhaps we have that, like the bucket could have its own stock, so maybe the tap just drops water straight down, and water or yeah, I'll figure something out. But anyway, so the bucket can implement water source. Whoops. Let's have our serialized field, private game object, water drop prefab, and then that's going to be what this returns. And then when we generate droplets, we're going to just do a for that I is less than count I++. So var droplet equals instantiate water drop prefab, and I probably want a serialized field, private transform water drop spawn transform. So we'll use that position, and then quaternion dot identity for the rotation, and then I'm actually going to do a get component on it for a rigid body, which I'm like, I kind of don't like very much doing it like that. I maybe want to separate it out into its own line, but we'll see. What I can do now though is vector 3 water spawn force equals new vector 3, and we'll do random dot range between like -1 and 1, 0 on the y, and again random dot range between -1 and 1. I'm then going to make sure that's normalized, and then we can say water spawn force dot y equals 1, so it's definitely going straight up. And then maybe we do water spawn force times equals, let's give ourselves another serialized field, private float water force multiplier. So we can do that, water force multiplier, and finally droplet dot add force water spawn force, and we're going to use impulse as our force mode so that's instantaneous. So then let's fire that method off. We are going to do I pointer click handler from Unity event system, and this is going to be super simple for the time being. Let's just fire off generate water droplets random dot range, whoop, and it's going to be 1 as the minimum and 3 as the max. So because it's integers, random.range is exclusive of the max. So if I say 1 as the bottom and 4 as the top, that's going to give us 1, 2, or 3 as the return value. Cool. I'll tell you what as well, let's serialize field. I don't even need to serialize field. We're just going to have a private scale spring, what is it, spring controller underscore scale, is it? Yeah, there we go. And this is going to be our juice spring. Yeah, no, we'll just call it scale spring controller. Scale spring controller. And rather than just generating the droplets like we were going to do, let's also get our scale spring controller and ping at like 0.75, and that way we can do a similar kind of thing here where we say scale spring controller dot target position, set target spring position as 1. North Game Studio, hello, welcome in, glad to have you here. And we will do a ping once again to 0, just so we get some nice juice when we create our thing. We want to make sure actually that we do this in start, and in awake, let's do a get component. Spring controller scale. There we go. Oops, missing a bracket. Very nice. Okay, let's go put that on our bucket, shall we? And then we could probably turn this bucket into a prefab. So, bucket. Spring controller scale. Let's zoom in here a little bit so that we can actually see what we're doing. So I'm going to create an empty, which is going to be my water spawn position. And I'm going to move that up 0.75, I believe, is the height of my bucket. And maybe, you know, we go a little bit higher than that, 0.8, just so that we're spawning out the top and not ending up with any weird collision issues. Then on my, let's drag and drop some of this stuff in. So spawn transform is that transform. Force multiplier, let's go with like 2.5. That's probably going to be way too excessive, but we can tailor it later. For our scale controller, our affected transforms is going to be the graphics, because I don't want to change the scale of the object itself. Max scale vector is going to be 1, 1, 1. Not 1, 1, 10, 1, 1, 1. Min scale vector 0, 0, 0. And the frequency I'm going to set to 35, so it's relatively quick. And I'm going to put the damping at 0.35, I think. Or maybe just 0.3, so that we get a bit of kind of boinginess when it goes. And then, of course, we need to make a water prefab, and we're going to do some custom shader work for this eventually, but for the time being, let's just make ourselves a sphere, which is going to be grabbable. Ground drag offset, I'm going to set to 0.75, or maybe, let's set it to 1, and the follow time is going to be 0.125, so there's a bit of lag. Scale wise, oh well, let's give it a material first, shall we? Graphics, materials, water. There we go. Doesn't look anything like a water ball droplet, but we're going to roll with it. I'm going to make it 0.25, maybe 0.125 in scale. How does that look on screen? Potentially a bit small. Let's go 0.175. See how that looks? I think that'll be all right. And just because I want to, I'm going to make a physics material for it as well, so that it bounces a little bit. Physics material, water, drop. Right, friction, I want it to be pretty high. Bounciness, like 0.2-ish. And then, yeah, let's just have the friction at max and make sure we put this on our water drop. Collider, physics material, there we go. I'm going to give it a mass of, I mean, I guess we leave it at 1, that's fine. Actually, yeah, I think that's everything. So let's make a prefab, put that in our prefabs folder, shall we? Delete from the scene, and let's go ahead on our bucket, put that into our water drop prefab, and see what we end up with. So theoretically, we should now be able to drag this bucket around the place, as we have been. Yeah, all good. And then when we click it, yeah, look at that, it spits out some water, which we can also drag and drop around the place. Boing, boing. That's just very satisfying. Look at that. Oh, love it. But I don't think my frame rate's gonna love the amount of water that we've got coming out here. That's brilliant though. I am very happy with how that feels. And like we can even, ooh. Yeah, I can drop the water on top of the bucket. If I pick up the bucket, does the water come with it? Oh my god, it kind of does. That's nice. Look at that. Physics. Good stuff. Alright, okay. I mean, that's like a decent chunk of progress sorted. I want to make sure that this water drop has some decent drag to it. So I'm going to give it an angular drag of like 0.5 and a normal drag of like, I don't know, 0.7. Just so that it slows down and doesn't keep rolling forever. Yeah, nice. And I mean, in an ideal world, we're probably going to want to take this and use like an object pool for it. But so far, so good. I am very happy with that. So what we probably want to do next then is get ourselves some interactions. So like when we actually drop stuff onto, yeah, when we drop stuff onto something else, it can interact with it in some way, shape or form. Hey buddy. Cat's just come in. He might come up on the windowsill. Yep, there he goes. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna just shrink down that chat box real quick. Get it lined up a bit better as well. That'll do, that'll do. Nice. I think that's better. I'll probably want to darken the background of those boxes as well, but we'll do that in a minute. Right, brain. Let's make ourselves a plant pot, shall we? Which realistically is going to be pretty much identical to our water source, so I'm just going to duplicate it. Move this on over. I'm going to rename this to basic pot. Because I also want to add things like hydroponic pots and like long pots, troughs, things like that. I think that would be cool, and we'll have stuff like decorations and things as well. That's always nice. Right. What's my brain doing? I want to have pot material. Let's put this onto our pot, and I'm going to change the color to like something that looks roughly like a nice terracotta shade. Something around there looks pretty good. Scale wise, I want it to be maybe 0.5 tall. I think maybe we make it a bit wider as well. 0.75. Nice. I'm going to duplicate this one. Scale down a little bit. I think I probably want to... But 0.55, let's go with. Have that sticking out the top a little bit, and this is going to be our dirt. I'm probably going to spend like too much time with this just box modeling a plant that somewhat looks like a plant to grow in this pot. going to rename the graphics as well. Let's remove our bucket. We still want it to be grabbable because I want to be able to drag this thing about the place. And I think that's going to be pretty much everything that we need for this one for the time being. Let's fix our box collider. So we're going to be 0.25 high, we are 0.75 wide, 0.5 tall. Perfect. So now this should be behaving exactly the same as our water bucket. We should be able to just like, oh, of course, I'm not I'm not setting the spring position. Let's just disable that for the time being, just to make sure it's all behaving. Good. I have a plant pot that I can move around the place, and a water bucket which I can get water out of. I can pick up the water and I can drop it into the bucket. Good, 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 good. Ah, this is great. This is great. So what we want to be able to do is have it such that when we drop a... Ooh, yeah, so we've got a question around how I want to handle these interactions, because what we don't really want to do is hard code some interaction into the thing. I would much rather do it as a like some kind of function so it can be applied dynamically or done at runtime. We're gonna figure something out. So I'm going to make a C# script called plant, not plate, plant pot. Which actually is going to be, I'm going to want to separate these into different components because, you know, like I always preach, in line with solid principles, good coding practice, blah, blah, blah. What we would like to do is keep the behavior for like the dirt effectively separate to the plant pot so that we can have a, you know, we could easily make a different plant pot that's got multiple dirt slots in it, if you know what I mean. So first things first, let's go ahead and just do some setup for our spring controller. Oops. Yep. Scale spring controller equals get component, scale, spring control scale, bum bum. Start scale spring controller dot target 1 ping 0. Now how do I wanna do this? Because we also want a seed. So you know what? I'm actually gonna make the seed now as well. I'm gonna duplicate our water drop. Let's unpack. Diggy diggy dee dee dee. Prefab. Unpack completely. Seed. Not seen. Seed. There we go. And I imagine what we'll probably do in the future as well is make it so that there's a tooltip when you hover over a seed that shows you the traits for said flower, like petal shape, petal color, height, width, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting trying to figure out how to do a lot of this stuff. Make ourselves a seed material, which I'm going to just make green for now so that I can see it's applying to my sphere, please. Bang. And then this is more likely going to be like a quite pale sort of earthy yellow. something around there maybe. And I am going to change it to be just ever so slightly bigger. But on X, I'm going to make it 0.175. And on Y, I'm going to make it 0.1. So it is more like a bean type shape we got here. Maybe go 0.15 even. Yeah, that feels good. Let's reset our rotation. Can I reset just rotation? I don't think I can. Ideally, I want the radius to not be any, or like I want the size to be, or the collider to be inside the bounds of this seed, so that it's you know, not floating. I think I probably want to up this bounce as well, maybe like 0.6. Might end up even being higher. And I'm going to rename this to small entity, because I would also like to reuse it on my seeds. Let's make a prefab for that. And let's just give it a looky. Yeah, bounces a little bit. That'll do me. That'll do me. Let's go ahead and put our plant pot onto our pot. And let's also make these prefabs as well. So plant pot is a prefab, water source is a prefab. Way! Get in the right folder. Sick. And then we've got everything we need. So what we would like to do is we need some system by which we can keep the seed like, whoop. Keep the seeds separate to the oh gosh, my brain. Keep the seed object separate to the data on the seed, so that we can, you know, drop it onto a plant pot, have it go in there, and then have some shrub appear that matches with the you know what I'm trying to say. And then we can take our water and drop it onto the thing, detect that, and grow the plant that's in the pot by one step. Is the plan. That is the idea. And I imagine we'll do this with scriptable objects. I imagine we will do this with scriptable objects. So let me... Yeah, I think that's the way I want to do it. I think that's the way I want to do it. Let me create a C# script, which we're going to call plant... Yeah, plant data SO, or flower data SO. It might not even be that, you know, it might not even be that. I think we probably want to define what a flower is made up of, because it will be like... the stem, the leaves, and the flower. Or the petals. Those will be kind of the types of things that we need to change. And ideally I want those to be able to all be dynamic so that we can piece together a random set of them, and then the seed is going to carry each of those bits of data and be able to pass it on to the plant pot so that the pot knows what data is in it. And then we can generate a flower based on that. Is that how I want to do it? Or do I just want to have like flower types that you can change the colors of? Oh dear, excuse me. Got the yawns. Thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. I think for now, let's just get some stuff set up so that we can have a thing recognize what's been dropped onto it. Because that's what we'd like to do. I'm going to get rid of this to do in the grabbable object real quick because I don't think I want to do anything in there. Move this to being single line. Blah blah. Very good, very nice. And just for anyone who's interested as well, the dragging and dropping is quite straightforward. I'm using vector2.smoothDamp to do the smoothing. So we've got a vector3 for what we want the target position to be, and then a reference variable that we can pass through to the function to handle the smoothing. Got the drag follow time, that's how long it takes for it to move from where it is to the target position, and then the ground offset, how far off the ground do we want it to be. Eventually this is going to be how far above the thing that it's above do we want it to be, because, you know, we might have multiple levels and therefore we want it to update so it's above those positions. And then we're also caching some things, so we're caching a reference to the main camera in Awake. We're also making sure that we've got a rigid body on here, and then we've got a static read-only plane, which is just the XY plane. That is a flat plane at 0, 0 along the XY axes, which we're using in our begin drag, or not the begin drag, sorry, in the update drag position method to do a raycast from the camera to that plane. If we hit the plane, which we always do, get out the float for the enter, which is how far along the way, along the ray it has hit something or it's hit that plane. And then we can get the vector 3 of that enter position, which is going to be our ground position, set the target ground position, blah blah blah, and then update our rigid body's position again using that smooth damp. And therefore, because we're using rigid body, we're doing this in fixed update rather than standard update, because all physics stuff should do in fixed update so that it's stable, because weird things can happen otherwise. And then all we're doing with actually detecting the drags, we're using the event system as discussed before. When we begin the drag, set our rigid body and is dragging, rigid body to be kinematic, is dragging, internal boolean to be true. When we drag, we update our mouse drag position to the position of the mouse in the event data, end drag, set kinematic and dragging to false. And then that last drag position is what we're using for running the update drag position function, and we're only running this function if is dragging is true. Very nice, very straightforward. Cool. I think I'm giving myself decision paralysis about how I want to handle dragging and dropping stuff because this is just kind of, I should just do it really. Yeah, Bonnet, let's just do it. So we're gonna have flower data SO, you're gonna be a scriptable object. Let's have a public string flower name, public string flower description. And let's go ahead and make this a text area as well so that we've got some more space. We'll probably end up having something like a flower prefab in there as well. But I'm not really sure how I want to go about handling this. File name, new flower data, menu name, I don't know, let's go flowers, flower data, because we'll probably have things like decoration data and stuff like that so that people can spawn decorations around the gaff. Let's create a script for our seed. Now, do we... I'm wondering if we create an interface that is, it's like eye collision interaction, which can be generic, so that we can just implement that interface on an object. I think that might be what I want to do. So let's do this. We're going to make a C# script, eye collision interactor. Wait for it to compile. I'm going to pop this open. This is going to be an interface. Eye collision interactor, generic, and then we're going to have a I guess a public void handle collision or handle interaction, which is going to take in an object of type T interactor. Because then I can have something like collision interactor plant pot. The only thing I don't like about it is if I was going to do on collision enter, that gives me a collision, and then I have to do a check for actually like what the type is, and then handling that, which is not what I want to do particularly. Feels like somewhere where I need something like what is it? Is it the visitor pattern or the mediator pattern? Design patterns. Behavioral. Separate objects from the algorithm on which they operate. I don't think it's what I want, but it might be what I want. Could be strategy, but I don't think it's going to be strategy. I don't think it's going to be mediator. Right, let's have a look. What's this? This is a visitor pattern. Imagine your team develops an app which works with you, blah 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 blah. At some point, let's zoom this in so we can go through this together. Prime, hello, welcome. Assuming you came in relatively recently. I'm gonna guess so, because the chat box is not yet showing any messages on the stream. That said, the chat box is kind of hit and miss sometimes. But I think I've only got the one source, so we should be okay. We should be okay. Right. Visitor pattern suggests that you place the new behavior into a separate class called visitor instead of trying to integrate it into visitor classes, original object, blah 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 blah. Export visitor, implements visitor, do for city, do for industry. So basically it's like a load of definitions for handling visitation behavior. I mean, this is kind of in line with what I was doing. Yes, this sounds like a nightmare. You might ask, why don't we use method overloading? Unfortunately, blah blah blah. Visipan technique called double dispatch helps to execute proper method on an object without cumbersome conditionals. Instead of letting the client select a proper version of the method to call, how about we delegate this choice? Okay, right, cool, fine. It's starting to come back because I've read this one before. Saw my game and it's so beautiful. Thank you very much. I'm assuming you're talking about tile lands. In which case, have my girlfriend to thank for that because she did all of the artwork for it. Very skilled and talented graphic designer she is. And I'm very happy that she was willing to help out with doing the artwork on it because it would not look as good if I did it myself. Not gonna lie. The only thing in the game that I did graphics wise was the UI and the monument and the background. I did the background because that was all shader code. But yeah, she made the magic happen. Right. Let me read this real world analogy. Good insurance agent is already, oh my gosh, always ready to offer different policies to various types of organizations. They come along if it's a residential building, sells medicine; if it's a bank, sells theft insurance; if it's coffee, sells fire and flood insurance. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So structure wise, what are we looking at? We have an interface for the visitor, which defines so we're looking at creating an interface which defines a way of handling visitation from different elements. And it's going to have a bunch of methods for handling a visit from concrete element A, concrete element B, C, D, etc, etc. And then the client is going to end up calling some code on these things. I might have to look at some git amend, because git amend is just a don when it comes to design patterns. And he did do a really good video on the visitor pattern, because the visitor pattern's kinda complex from memory. Yeah, bun it. Cat's back. Oh, ads, stop. I don't know what the intricacies of showing ads on a live stream are in terms of like copyright positions, but hey ho. Right, let's listen to this
pattern, and I hope that it will help you too. The visitor pattern started to click for me when I began to visualize it more like an alien visitor knocking on my object's door, wanting permission to come inside and interact. Today's video will take us through implementing a power-up system using the classic visitor pattern. We're going to touch on intrusive and reflective visitors too, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper into null coalescing operators in Unity. Let's get into it. The visitor pattern relies on something called double dispatch, and I just want to explain that really quickly here. In object-oriented programming, there are many times when the method call can't be decided until runtime because of polymorphism. This is where the concept of dynamic dispatch comes in. It's how the program decides which method to execute when there are multiple methods with the same name. Single dispatch is based entirely upon the object type. Double dispatch, which we're going to be using today, is based on the object type and the argument type. So don't worry about that too much. I just wanted to put that out there in case you read that somewhere and aren't sure what it means. After we define our interfaces and a few concrete implementations,
the question of programming language seems to be a common one at the moment. It's C#. We're in Unity.
I'll just move each of these into their own file, and then we'll define our first concrete
visitable. I wanna make a point on languages and tools real quick. Languages and tools make no difference whatsoever to how efficiently you can execute something. It's purely down to how well you know the tool, how much skill you have in the tool. If I was to try and do this challenge in like Python, for example, I have not used Python enough to be able to make a whole game in Python in the course of a month, but I've used Unity and C# for 12, 13 years, so I know a lot of the intricacies of the engine and of the language. There's still stuff that I have to like Google and double check or cross-reference, but it's much more efficient, and I can do all of the basic stuff and understand like how I need to create classes, where I need to put things, etc., with Unity. So I'm not going to be like wasting time bashing my head against the wall trying to figure out something specific with the engine or with the language, because I already know those things for the most part. There are little cases where, you know, some of the newer stuff in Unity, like the input system, or more recently like the universal render pipeline, because I've been looking at doing lots of custom render pipeline features and stuff like that. Those do take more learning because I don't know them yet, but yeah, the long and short of it is language or engine, tool, whatever, it doesn't matter what language, engine, tool you use. If it's one that you're comfortable with and one that you understand, you'll be able to do things efficiently. Yeah, that's kind of it. But furthermore, if you understand the concepts of programming and modern day game engines, you can still do stuff quite efficiently in different engines. Like when I was messing around with Godot back when the whole pricing debacle was going on, and when I, you know, continue to dabble about with Godot every now and then as well, I was able to pick things up quite quickly and start developing stuff with little issue, because I understand what common languages and modern engines should have as features. So even though the syntax is like completely different, I still know I can go and Google how to write a for loop in GDScript, or you know, branch conditionals in GDScript, and I can read the documentation and understand it. So those kind of principles, and then familiarity with the tool, are what enable you to do things quickly rather than the tool itself, if that makes sense. Okay, back to visitor pattern.
Health component that we'll put onto the player. So we'll define this as a behavior and implement the iVisitable interface. And I'll let Copilot fill this in here with the accept method. We'll accept the visitor and then allow the visitor to visit.
Do I think Java is a good language?
Add a debug statement there,
I think Java is a fine language. There's pros and cons to different languages in terms of like optimizations and like how well suited they are, but obviously, you know, you look at a game like Minecraft, it's arguably the most popular video game ever, written in Java. So yeah, it's fine. I did use Java for game programming when I first got into it back in 2010. And I stopped quite quickly because I didn't know anything about programming at the time, so diving straight into an object-oriented programming language was kind of trash. C++ is good because it's like the standard. You look at like Unity is C++ under the hood. It has C# as a wrapper over top, but in the back end it's C++. Unreal is C++. I think probably most engines that use some other language in the front end, or like some proprietary language like GDScript in Godot and what's-a-majignet in Game Maker, like the Game Maker programming language that they have. I don't know what it's called off the top of my head, but I think they all probably have a wrapper that then does some C++ stuff under the hood. Yeah, the learning curve is very huge for C++, mainly from my understanding because of memory management. Something that is a nice pro of Java and C# is the garbage collector, and it handles a lot of things in memory for you. You don't have to mess around with pointers and proper data allocation too much, because it, like I say, it does a lot of that for you. It's very easy in C++ to kind of set something up and then point at the wrong place or mismatch your pointers in some way, shape or form, and suddenly there's errors everywhere. But it's definitely the de facto for console and PC development. I don't know what the standard for mobile development is anymore. Either way though, you know, all of these languages nowadays have some framework that goes with them for making games. Like Python has Pygame, Java has lots of libraries for OpenGL and various physics engines as well. Obviously C# has Unity, and then all these other engines which have their proprietary languages. So it's really flexible. You can kind of use whatever you want. There's going to be different problems for each different language and for each different engine. The best advice is that you know, do some research, do some Googling, watch some videos, read some articles, ask on Reddit, Stack Overflow, just do your research basically and find stuff out. I wouldn't be able to tell you what graphics library is good for Java because I haven't used one in, like I say, nearly 12 years, 13 years, so I would not be able to comment, I'm afraid.
I'm going to get rid of this little placeholder because we need to define specific implementations for what we're going to do when we visit a health component, when we visit a mana component.
Right, so this is kind of what I don't want to do with the implementation, is have a definition for all of the different things because I want it to be like when... Oh, maybe I do. Woo! Almost just knocked a drink all over my laptop. Generic visitor pattern. I want to see... Yeah. T extends some superclass. Making visitor generic is useless. The accept method must be specific. Yeah, fair. That's not ideal. I was hoping for something better. Element, sub-element, element visitor. Yeah. I mean, this then raises the question for me, do I even want to bother using the visitor pattern, or do I just use on collision enter and check what it is? Because I don't like that, because it's very code smelly, like very code smelly. I mean, maybe I do want to use the visitor pattern. Okay, right. Stop. Let's try this again. So rather than if I have the seed handle the collision enter, what I would like to do is say if collision dot try get component, collision dot game object dot try get component, and it's going to be of type I collision interactor. I think I can just do that out I collision interactor interactor. Then we can do interactor dot accept. This. Which means I need this to not be generic. And then I can have a definition for seed in there. Maybe I keep it as handle interaction. Cool. So that's effectively what we're doing. So then my plant pot will be an I collision interactor. Or not the plant pot even. We're gonna make a separate component because I want to keep things nicely separated. I guess, what should we call this component? Place where I can plant seeds. I guess seed planting spot. Flower bed. Plant patch. Let's do that. I feel some pain. Yeah, I feel that. Games is not lucrative in terms of income, that's for sure. It is quite a grind trying to make any semblance of a living from it. Which, I mean, there's a lot of, you usually have to look at a lot of different streams of income. So like in my case, streams of income for my studio and how we develop games is donations and subscriptions through the form of Buy Me a Coffee, which there's a link for that way, I believe, and Patreon, which is in the description. That's a little bit more expensive, but has things like our core utils library are on there. Early access to games like this game will be going up on Patreon at the end of the week once there's the core loop features are in there as like an early access, early videos, etc, etc. Then obviously game sales, so Tile Lands, our previous game, Circuit Assault, our next game, this game, once it goes live on Steam, all of those get some passive income. Stuff like publisher deals, investments, etc, etc. Those are much more difficult to attain these days, but still relatively viable. And obviously they give you some financial grounding for a bit of time while you're developing a project, same with crowdfunding. But then the other thing that we do is external projects, so a lot of business to business type work where people either need consultancy or want a game developed. It's like the ideas person comes along, they want a game developed, they have a budget, we negotiate how to do that within their budget and scope. I teach as well, tutor programming, games development specifically. So there's a lot of different streams of income for the studio which help keep it more sustainable. We're still like incredibly early days in terms of actually executing on those things, so you know, come back in, I don't know, 6 months time when we're further down the line to see how that's going. So far though, the plan seems to be touch wood, you know, kind of solid. So that's something. Right, iCollision Interactor. We are going to want to rename that because I don't care about, or well, I don't really care for that name. It doesn't fit. Wait. Okay, I mean, first things first, let's just do, when the seed comes in, let's destroy seed dot interactor dot game object. I guess we could rename this to seed. And debug dot log planted seed dot flower data. Bun it, planted seed. We'll just do planted seed for now. We can set up some data sharing in a minute. On our basic pot, let's reuse this water spawn position as our flower. You know what? I'm actually going to delete that, and I'm going to use the dirt. I want to add a box collider to the dirt. And this is going to be my seed planting spot. And I'm actually going to turn this into a prefab of its own right. Cancel. Almost hit delete. Let's unpack this completely. I'm going to delete the basic pot from here. I'm going to turn the dirt into a prefab. And then I'm going to turn the basic pot into a prefab. So we've got a nested prefab in here. Fantastic. So let's make sure our seed also has our seed script on it. And I'm going to see if that works. So if I drop my seed on here, nothing happens. If I take my seed and drop it on the pot, nothing happens. Fantastic. On collision enter. Have I forgotten? No, I put the seed planting spot script on the dirt, didn't I? Yeah. So is it because the dirt doesn't have a rigid body? I don't think that should be the problem, because the seed has a rigid body. Do a debug.log there. This is one of those examples where I'm like, oh no, my familiarity with Unity is not actually that great. Because I always forget how collision detection plays out. The collision was detected multiple times. Oh, it's rolling away. Okay, so it's detecting the collision, which means it's failing on this try get component for collision interactor. Uh... Ooh, I wonder if get component will work, but try get component doesn't. Although I'm pretty sure I've used try get component with interfaces before and it works fine. So, yeah. What things I do to avoid losing motivation while developing games? Yeah, it's a tough one. I think a good part of it, because it's almost inevitable that you're going to lose motivation when working on a game, and same with any creative endeavor, to be honest, or any endeavor full stop. You're going to hit a point where you're, in a state of burnout, or maybe you're having to do elements of that job or task that you don't enjoy, or that you didn't want to be doing as part of the thing. Like, a big part of running a game studio is all the business admin side of things. I don't really want to be doing a lot of business admin. I want to be making games. But it's a tough one. A big tip is just like giving yourself grace and accepting the fact that you're going to be burnt out sometimes. Give yourself breaks, allow yourself to step away. Something that's a bit unorthodox that I do, that people frown upon a lot, is working on multiple projects at the same time, or multiple things at the same time, which actually Kyle Banks, who's making our Farewell North, he did an interview with Thomas Brush recently where he was talking about context switching being really good for avoiding burnout, because when you get to a point where you're working on one project and you're feeling I might be hitting my limit for what I can do right now, you can switch over to doing something else. So for him, it's switching over to making YouTube videos, or switching over to doing more of the social media stuff, and then coming back to work on the game after that little break. And it's small breaks. It would be like you spend a week working on something different and then come back to working on the main thing. So that's definitely a good one that I like to use, but again is kind of a hot take, because a lot of people really frown upon working on multiple things at the same time. You have to be quite disciplined with it so that you don't end up just starting loads of new projects. It's like only have like 3 tops, where one of them is like a game jam style thing, another is maybe a 3-month project, and then you've got your major project that's your main thing. Outside of those, have a plan, set yourself a timeline, set deadlines, give yourself a schedule, and make adjustments as appropriate. Ideally, you want to keep the timeline and the schedule the same, but if you need to make cuts to content, or you need to make accommodations in the scope, then do that. Keep yourself accountable to the deadlines that you've set, and try and get those things done. And then finally, the biggest one for me is get yourself an audience. Like when I started this YouTube channel 3 and a bit years ago now, the main reason that I did it was A, to have an audience of people who would be interested in playing the games I'm making, but B, to have people that would hold me accountable for actually making the games in the first place. Because yeah, I think if I didn't have those external dependencies, people like yourself, subscribers to the channel, people in the Discord server, and the rest of my teammates as well, that they keep me accountable for getting stuff done, but they're also supportive in, if I'm in a state of burnout and I need to take a week, 2 weeks off to go do other stuff or not touch game dev for a little bit, they're understanding of that, but will expect me to be back eventually. So those kinds of things are the most helpful. But it's definitely a tough problem. It's a tough problem, and one that everyone faces. Probably worth not developing your dream game as well. Just going to put that out there, because you don't want to end up hating your passion. Like, unless you're in a position where you can do it low risk, i.e. you've already got a lot of money saved up, and it's not going to cost you, if you're sinking the time into that, you're not going to be putting yourself in a difficult position, and you're not going to care if it fails. It's more, you just want to make the game for yourself and you do it. Go ahead. But the majority of indie games, for all intents and purposes, fail. So you don't really want to spend 5 years developing your dream game for it to then not sell. You've, you know, remortgaged your house or sold up shop and downscaled a whole bunch. Yeah, it's not worth it. A game should not be your baby. It should be a product that you develop, you ship, and then you move on. And you know, you can still be passionate about it. Like, I'm passionate about this project and the cozy vibes, but it will be a develop it, ship it, maintain, move on. Similar to how Tirelands has been. We developed it, we're maintaining it, we shipped it, and now we're moving on. So, yeah. Don't get too attached, basically. So, I want to do debug dot, oh well, let's do var interactor equals collision dot game object dot get component I collision interactor, like so. And then I want to debug.log found interactor test is not equal to null. You're welcome. I'm glad. That's what I like, to be helpful. If anyone's gonna get anything out of paying attention to me, hopefully it's like somewhat useful knowledge, because that is the important thing, is that you're getting as much value out of what I do as I am. Good. Found interactor is false. Found interactor is still false. Okay, so that means iCollision interactor is not getting picked up. Is this going to be where I find out that we're not actually colliding with the dirt and we're colliding with the basic pot? No, we are colliding with the dirt. God damn. Seed planting spot definitely implements iCollision interactor. Maybe I need to do... Can I do, like, is? That's never going to be true, is it? Yeah, the given expression is never of that type. Here's a question. If I get component type of seed planting spot, is that going to give me something? Wait a minute. That's still false. Way, my seed just clipped through the floor. Okay, I mean that's good to know. So it's not getting it's not getting the seed planting spot from the dirt. I have definitely put a seed planting spot on the dirt. This is my basic pot. There's the dirt. It has a seed planting spot script on it. It is called seed planting spot. Okay. Just doing a bunch of idiot checks to make sure that's all in line. So that in mind, I want to know what it's actually colliding with, because it's colliding. Collision.gameObject.name. Let's actually see what... Actually, you know what? We can do collision detected, and we can say collision.gameObject as the second argument. So that lets us then, if we select this debug log in the inspector in our console, it will highlight the object in our hierarchy, so we can find out what we've actually collided with. What I fear might be happening, or what would be weird if it was happening, is that it's colliding with itself somehow. That just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's collided with the ground. Let's drop you on here. Bang. Basic pot. It's collided with basic pot. I don't want it to collide with basic pot. It should be colliding with dirt, because the dirt collider is sat on top of the basic pot. Way basic pot. I mean, that's very curious. Because if I disable the box collider there and then drop this, we're still not getting anything. Are we just not colliding at all? Hold on, let me clear. It's still colliding with the basic pot, but the basic pot doesn't have a collider on it. It does have a rigid body though. I wonder if that's it. Is it because this doesn't have a rigid body on it? This doesn't make any sense. Oh lord. Yay! Okay, it's because it doesn't have a rigid body, but I can't have a rigid body on both things. Because they go nutty. I wonder... I mean, maybe I on-trigger enter instead. Hold on. There we go. I think I can make this generic again. Because in here I can just say seed. Oops, I collision interactor of type seed, and then my seed planting spot can be of type seed. There we go, cool, nice. And then I don't need this to handle like a whole bunch of stuff. I can just... Yeah, because we have it be the responsibility of this. So if the thing that it collides with has a handler for seed, we handle the seed interaction. Cool, makes sense. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of all of this. And then we're going to want to have a rigid body on the dirt, and we're going to want it to be a trigger. Like so. I think that should fix our problems. Is trigger, add, rigid body, kinematic. Cool. There we go. Good, good, good. So now we shouldn't have a pot that's dancing all about the place. Hey, Bionicle, welcome, welcome. Good to see ya. I'm doing good. Just battling collision idiosyncrasies. We should now be able to plant the seed. Hey, there we go. Planted seed. Let's go. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Is there any other specific day I stream? At the moment, I'm streaming every day, same time. It'll be between, I mean, it's in the Discord server. I mean, if you want to get notified when I'm going to stream or when streams are scheduled, definitely join the Discord server. But typically, I'm aiming to stream every day, and it'll be somewhere between 2:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. British Standard Time. So by that, this stream should be finishing in the next 20 minutes or so. I was hoping we'd get more done, so I might go a little bit longer, but I also have to cook dinner and tidy up a little bit. But yeah, every day, pretty much. So stay tuned. Okay. So I can plant seeds. I want to... I need a better system by which I can track what flower is in what pot. I mean, I think it's going to have to be a scriptable object, isn't it? And therefore we're going to need some public flower object. Or flower... Yeah, like a flower... It's not really what I want to do because I think it limits the flexibility, but hey ho. Flower. So we can have a public flower, flower object. And then my seed can have a I mean, yeah, we'll have a serialized field private flower data SO, and there's going to be flower data. So then, I mean, ideally, I then also want a public flower data SO, flower data. And we are going to then in our plant pot, we can actually, not the plant pot, sorry, the flower data, no, seed planting spot. When we plant a seed, or if we handle the interaction, let's have a private flower. Oh no, it'll be public. We'll have a public flower potted flower, which can be get private set. If we have a potted flower, if potted flower is not equal to null, we're not going to handle our seed interaction because, you know, we've already got a flower. Otherwise, let's say potted flower equals seed dot flower data dot flower object. We're going to instantiate that. we are going to want a serialized field, private transform flower position transform. And then yeah, then we can destroy the seed and say we planted the seed and everything is fine. So let me go ahead and let's make some flower data, shall we? I'm going to make a folder, resources. We're going to make a folder inside the resources folder, which for those who don't know, resources folder is a special folder in Unity which you can very easily access via code. Just by doing resources.load, that'll then pull a load of assets from the given directory in the resources folder. So I'm going to have flower data folder. I'm going to create a new C# script, not C# script, sorry, new flowers, flower data, and we're going to call you test flower. This is a test flower which does absolutely nothing. Nothing. Exclamation mark. And let's go ahead and make ourselves a empty. You're going to be my test flower. We are going to give it the flower script. I'm also going to put a scale spring on it, which this one, the frequency I want to be like 25. I'm going to make the damping be 1 because I don't want it to be springy. We're going to once again give it an empty for our graphics, under which I'm going to create a cube. We are going to remove the box collider. We are going to give it a material. It's going to look like a cactus. I'm going to make it 0.1 on those axes and like 0.25 on the y-axis. Let's just take this test flower and see how we're looking. I obviously want to make sure that the cube is moved up 0.125 as well. Bum 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 bum. It's going to be quite funny. We'll roll with that. I'm going to duplicate the cube once, rotate it 45 degrees on the, sure, the x-axis, that works. And let's scale it down once more, like that. You know what, I might rotate it more than 45. Let's rotate it 60. So unnecessary, but we're doing it. Duplicate again. This one is going to be slightly bigger. Sure, let's go with that. Let's go with that, and I'll make you a child of this one so that I can duplicate that, rotate that negative 60, and position it at negative 0.79. Now, yeah, we legit have a cactus. That's quite funny. Let's just turn that into a prefab, because then I can put it in here, delete it from the scene. My basic pot, not my basic pot, my dirt, we are going to create an empty, which is going to be our flower position. And then on my flower script, which I haven't opened yet, let's open that, shall we? I'm going to go ahead and do, once again, spring controller scale, spring controller, and then on awake, do a get component. Start, target, to 1, ping it to 0, and then you know what, let's just make sure this, why have you done that, you silly thing? Too far. Let's make sure this is sat atop. I'm gonna move it up. I think 0.45 is fine actually, so it'll be slightly in the dirt, but for the most part outside the dirt. And then let's just go on our seed and stick this test flower data in there. So what we should see now, as soon as I set up the flower spring controller properly, pop the graphics in there. Max is going to be 111. Min is 000. So we should now be able to see that if we take this seed and drop it on this pot, we will get a flower spawning inside the pot. What is not going to happen, however, is when we then pick up the pot and move it, the flower will not follow, which is quite funny, but definitely not what we want to happen. So let's also make sure that on our seed planting spot, we go ahead and say potted flower dot transform dot set parent transform, so that it remains. And you know what? I think let's actually do the... No, we can keep it as transform, that's fine. But that's kind of nice. We now have a magical little flower appearing when we plant a seed. Oop. Go on you go. Bang. Look at that. And we can move the pot around, which is nice. Lovely stuff. We're still getting balls of water coming out of our thing, so now we want to make a water handler so that when we drop our water onto the flower, it will grow. But I don't know how I want to handle growing. There's a couple ways we could do it. Ideally, I'd want it to be like animated through like a shader or something. We could even split it into the stem and then the like leaves and then the flower. So everything's got 3 stages of growth, but I'd also like to be able to control having like how many stages of growth we have on a plant. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it should be easy enough. I might have to do some thinking about how I approach that. Regardless, what do I want to do? I want to go onto the flower, test flower, not the seed, test flower, and I want to make sure that I've removed all of the box colliders from these cubes, which I have apparently. So Lord knows why it's colliding with it. I'm not just imagining that, am I? That definitely was, the water was colliding with the flower itself. Oh, no, it's not. We're good. We're good. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Boop. Cool. Okay, I'm going to do two last things today then. I'm going to add an eye collision interactor for type water. I mean, we haven't made a water droplet yet. Haven't made a water droplet class. Let's do that, shall we? Do a similar thing here on trigger enter. If other dot try get component type of don't need that, out var, or well, out eye collision interactor water drop interactor, then interactor dot handle interaction. This, go back onto our seed planting spot. Debug.log watering plant and rename interactor to water drop. Cool. And then I would also like to have it so that we can rotate our grabbable objects. So I'm going to give them an eye. Do I want this to be on grabbable object actually? No, I probably want to make a different different component called rotatable object. Nice and simple, and we will give it a eye pointer click handler where we will say if not event data dot button if event data dot button is not equal to but pointer event data dot button dot right, return return. Otherwise we can rotate the object by 90 degrees. So I think actually let's do this with we could do this with a smooth damp as well, I think. So let's have a serialized field, private float rotation speed. Let's also do serialized field, private float rotation interval. And actually, I think I won't make these serialized fields. I think I'll just make them private static. Rotation speed. So the rotation speed can be like 0.125. Rotation interval. Well, maybe let's go 0.25. Rotation interval is going to be 90 by default. And then we're going to have a private float current rotation y, private float target rotation y, private float rotation smooth ref, and then in update we can say current rotation y equals math f dot smooth damp current rotation y target rotation y ref rotation smooth ref s rotation speed, which, you know, really I should rename to rotation time because it's not the speed, it is the time. And then we can say transform dot rotate around. Do I want to rotate around? Transform dot rotation equals quaternion dot angle axis. No, I can just say Euler angles. Yeah, Euler 0. Current rotation y 0. And then we just want to make sure that in start we say current rotation y equals transform dot Euler angles dot y, so that that is all correct. And then current rotation y plus equals s rotation interval. Fantastic. If it's a clicker / idle game, it could also work for mobile ? Although touch controls are much more basic than clicks. It almost definitely could, and I would potentially consider putting it on mobile. It's a similar, it is kind of the UX is the issue, because it was a similar discussion with Tile Lands where we were like, Tile Lands was originally supposed to be a mobile game, but the grid was too small on mobile screen, so we need to figure out some interaction there. And then it is handling having some input for a left click and a right click, but also a mouse hover. So, you know, there is press and hold, double tap versus single tap, but then you've got to consider things like accessibility for people with disabilities, like motor coordination disabilities, something that might make double tapping or pressing and holding for a long duration harder. Yeah, there's a lot more to consider with mobile as far as UX goes than there is with PC, which is it's kind of annoying. But also monetization on mobile is a little bit more annoying as well. So I think the approach that we're going to look to take with Tile Lands is probably that we do something like Tile Lands Lite, which is a smaller version of the game on mobile for free that then has probably ads on it, and the option, you know, to disable the ads for a flat fee, which would be cheaper than what the mobile version of the PC version of the game would be, something like £1.50 or something like that. But it means that it's a different experience to PC, justifies putting it on mobile for free versus it being the $3 that it is on PC. And yeah, just kind of makes things a little bit more straightforward in that regard. Right, let's put our rotation object onto each of these things. And now it should be the case that we can right-click objects and they will rotate 90 degrees. I have a terrible feeling that I'm going to end up with... oh, that works. Nice. Boop, boop, boop. I mean, that's kind of weird. Why is my plant rotating? Also, I can't drag the pot anymore? My bucket works fine. Oh, there we go. Now it's working. Rotate. Oh. Interesting. Okay, I have a feeling I know what's going on. It's because I need to make sure that I'm only doing things with the left button. So on my grabbable object, let's make sure that we also don't begin this drag unless it's the left button. So if we're not using the left button, we return. Likewise, on our water or bucket, sorry, when we click, if the event data dot pointer data dot button, sorry, it's not equal to pointer event data left, we return. I'm also just going to reduce this to only generating one droplet now as well. Like that. And that should fix all our problems. And I think that's going to be a pretty good place to end off the stream for today. Like I say, we'll just make sure that everything's working as it should be. I can pick up my thing. That's fine. I can pick up my plant pot. Plant my seed. I can rotate the bucket. But I now can't click and drag it. That's very interesting. Yeah, once I've rotated it, I can't pick it up and move it. Until it randomly decides that I can. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Well, hey, that's going to be a fun one for us to solve in the next stream. So, on that note, I'd like to thank everyone who came. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe and join the Discord server to get notified of when I do more streams and upload videos. If you want to support the channel, there's a link to our Patreon down in the description where you can get access to the Shiba Utils core assets that's coming out this week, as well as early access to some videos and regular updates for what's going on in the studio outside of everything that I share in Discord and on YouTube. There's also a link over on the left hand side of the screen to buy us a hypothetical coffee. It's an espresso coffee. You can support for $1 over there, which is less than the Patreon costs. Alternatively, buy our games. Also link in the description for those. Thank you everybody so much for coming, and I will see you tomorrow. Cheers.